Nation podcast. What's your grind like? What's your grind like? What's your grind like? What you grind like? What's your grind like? What's your grind like? What you grind like? What's your grind like? What's your grind like? What you grind like? What's your grind like? What's your grind like? What you grind like? What's your grind like? What's your grind like? What you grind like? What's your grind like? What's your grind like? What you grind like?
Welcome to episode 6 of the What's Your Grind podcast. My name is Keith Burrows, and I have the pleasure of sitting here with Miss Taya Moore. We want to talk about, you have a really good career path and entrepreneur, mother, daughter, songwriter. I mean, the list goes down the hallway of your accomplishments and what you're up to. And go ahead and introduce yourself to everybody.
Yes, my name is Taya Moore. I'm the owner of Just Taya Brand LLC. As Keith said, I'm an author, mother, daughter, podcast producer of the Mr. Know-It-All podcast, social media manager of Cheers Philly, and the Mr. Know-It-All podcast, songwriter, book editor. The list goes on.
That's amazing, and we're gonna definitely get into all of that. I want to start with the book. Let's talk about the book. First of all, what is the title of the book that you wrote and published?
The book is called A Fresh Cup of Tea, No Sugar, and the tea is in parentheses because it's a triple entendre. It's basically my correlation between the healing process to making the cup of tea. It's about me. My name starts with T, and I'm spilling some tea about myself. So it's a triple entendre. Yeah.
I love that. And how long ago did you publish the book?
I published it in 2021, February 22nd, 2021.
All right. And do you, how does it feel, first of all, being an author? Because you now have author in front of your name. And what was your process? How does it feel being an author? And what was your writing process in creating this book?
It feels amazing being an author. When I was a kid, teenager, I used to read all the time. I don't even know how many books I've read in my lifetime. And I always said that when I grew up, I was going to write a book like Are You There, God? Is Me, Margaret by Judy Blume. So that's what I, intended to do for adults, basically.
Yeah.
The process is not an easy one. There's some nights I was up till 5 a.m. for days straight. Literally a couple weeks before it was coming out, I was up every night. I kept changing stuff. It was crazy. Cause I'm a Virgo, so ain't nothing ever really right. So, so yeah, I mean, it was a really grueling process. It actually took 5 years. It kept starting and stopping. And then even prior to coming out with this book, I was writing a fiction book called When It Rains, It Pours. And my computer lost the entire book. I was like 80 pages in. So for a while, I didn't even want to do it again because
I was discouraging.
Traumatized,
Mm-hmm.
because I had lost so much information. But then, I started to write it again, and eventually I finished it.
So, as a fellow creator, I'm interested in knowing your process, right? You explained the process of how you wrote the book. Let's talk about the song. You're a songwriter. Let's talk about that process versus the process of you writing a longer piece of intellectual property like a book.
So the song, What's It Going to Be, by Michelle C. Lee, how it came about is I had like a book of poetry because I write poetry as well. So I had a book of poetry, and she was looking at my book of poetry, and she came across this one called What's It Going to Be? And then she was like, this could be a song. And I was like, really? And then like a couple days later, she sends me an email, and it's a video of her singing the words from the song. And
okay.
It was like, oh, wow. I mean, it took a little while to get off the ground, like 5 years or whatever. But yeah, it's finally out.
But you
and
hear.
streaming everywhere. Yep.
You hear.
Yep.
Right. So sometimes it takes a while to create this cake and bake it and make sure that it's right.
Yeah.
But it's here now. So I know that you have ghostwriting that you do. Can we talk about that? Like, you know, what your future is in ghostwriting for other artists and people. Is that something that...
Oh, yeah. So, no, yeah, I definitely would like to at some point write books for other people. I mean, there's a lot of people who want to get their story out, but they don't necessarily understand the process or, you know how to navigate that situation. So, you know, like Will Smith and people like that didn't write their own book. They paid someone else to do it. So I would eventually like to be able to do that.
Yeah, I think that's a wonderful lane for you. And what I like about you as a entrepreneur is your attention to detail, you know, and not just your attention to detail for yourself, but your attention to detail for the client work that you're doing for other people. So I really want to talk to that as well. Can we talk about Miss Taya Moore as a social media consultant?
So I officially became a social media manager January 28th, 2023, coming up on a year. Started out with Cheers Philly, which is a restaurant. It's the old Sister Muhammad Kitchen. That really came about because I had been studying like publicity and marketing for like a couple years, and I put this post up and I was like, now I'm ready to do it. So Mukman, one of the owners of Cheers, was like, you could do it for us. We could be a guinea pig, right? And then, you know, the rest is history. So I've literally been doing social media management for them for a year. And I'm a brag a little bit, right? So when I started out, they were at one location, which is smaller. Then they moved to a bigger location because, you know, they had to accommodate all the new customers and everything that they were receiving as a result of the social media. Because before I came along, they had not posted anything since 2021.
Sure.
So.
Right. So the effects of, you know, you coming aboard as marketing and branding help businesses. It's actually a vehicle that drives business.
Right.
Which I think is amazing. All right. So we've kind of discussed what you are as an author. We've discussed what you're doing in songwriting. Have you written any more songs, or do you have a schedule of more songs to come out?
No, I haven't written any more songs. I mean, I have a bunch of poems.
Okay.
That probably could be turned into songs also. I am a ASCAP registered songwriter and publisher. So I have the freedom to create music from here on out. That was a big deal to me because I'm like, I'm on the same list with all these other, big time celebrities like Babyface. You know what I mean? So it was a big thing. When I got that piece of mail, it was like, you're a registered ASCAP songwriter and publisher. I was like, yes.
Cool part about it is, no matter how big you are, everybody got to go through the same door when it comes to the BMI and ASCAP. So being a part of that is very important. And because you align yourself with these other people. So what's the next step for you in your career as an entrepreneur? What's your next move?
So, I mean, I'm going to continue doing social media management, of course. Continue producing the Mr. Know-It-All podcast. Like I said, I would like to start writing books for other people. I've done a few content calendars for people, like just that tells them when to post throughout the day. I would ultimately like to become a publicist.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my ultimate goal.
Like publicist, PR work.
Yep.
So honestly, you are actually a publicist already.
Yeah.
You know, how I have you in my contacts is as a publicist, PR. Right. So I'm already viewing you as PR publicist. And I'm sure my colleague, Keith, first of all, shout out Keith as Mr. Know-It-All podcast in the back on a production. We appreciate you. you produce his podcast, but you also do social media work for him as well. So, he's also a client of yours.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So can we talk about that process? How you produce a podcast? Because I see the work that you do behind the scenes, but I don't think a lot of people know about that role for someone to be behind the scenes producing a podcast. You only see the face of the podcast. You see somebody who's hosting, but there's people behind the scenes that's literally a vehicle for that production. Can we talk to that?
So basically, when you're producing a podcast, you have to have a format. How much time each person can spend on each subject. You have to have the content, what's going to be talked about, at what time, what lane you're going to go in with the content. Because, a podcast sometimes it could go all over the place. So it runs smoother when there's a format in place. And that's part of, major part of the production.
What type of challenges, not per se for Mr. Know-It-All's podcast, but what kind of challenges have you faced so far in production?
I haven't really faced any challenges in production. I pretty much get free reign, whatever I come up with.
No, because you're very creative.
Thank you.
You're an extreme creator, and the type of pride that you put behind the work that comes out, the end product of the work that you come out, you would really assume that there was behind the scenes, there was fires you was putting out. I'm thinking it's all time, especially working for Keith. I think there's a whole
you said that, I didn't.
There's a whole bunch of things that could possibly go wrong, but having you on their team makes everything smoother. And I want people to know that and understand that, her price is her price, and she's professional.
And then I'm on there sometimes because they keep inviting me, but
I think you being on that podcast, you add a lot of context to the actual show, and now it kind of makes sense to me because you're also the producer of the show. So that's a wonderful thing. Now, would you be interested in producing other podcasts as well at the moment? Because you seem a bit busy. You seem like you got a lot.
I don't know. I mean, this is going to sound weird, but it just feels like a conflict of interest to produce two podcasts
at the same time. Okay.
And then I have to make sure this person's content doesn't mimic this person's content. Yeah, no.
Okay. And I know that's also kind of the same with the projects that you deal with social media. Doing two restaurants at the same time will become a conflict.
Yeah, it would.
So I like that. Ethically, I like that about what you're doing. You're working with intention. So home life. You have children?
I have one daughter who's 23. She might be 24 in March.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And how has being a mom affected your professional life?
It hasn't really affected my professional life. I mean, I just, I wrote the book in 2021. She was in college, you know what I mean? So, I mean, I've always done some kind of creativity. Like I've been in radio for like 13, 14 years. I used to do blogs all the time. I used to write for online magazines. So it didn't really have an effect on me being a parent. Because I was able to do it like, when I had free time.
I dig it. Okay. So are you in a position to maybe do some mentoring if somebody's here watching this episode and they're seeing all of these wonderful things that you're involved with, behind the scenes production, music, writing, songwriting, authoring, creating books. These are like real separate professions that some people spend years in. And so if somebody's interested, they see you right now here on this show and they're interested in knowing more about creating these lanes, being a part of these lanes, are you someone that can be a resource?
Yeah, I could. Yeah, definitely.
You know, maybe mentor some folks, show them how to, because like, you know, just dealing with something like an Amazon KDP can be very challenging. You know, creating the right formats, putting it through, even songwriting, you know, structure, and then also collaborating with other people is very important. What type of collaborations are you looking forward to in the future? Whether it be music, social media, or production?
I would probably like to do social media management for like an artist, like a singer or rapper or something. Because that's a totally different lane.
Right.
Like I said, I would like to write books for people, so that would be a collaboration because, you know, the person would actually have to tell me their story for me to write it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay. So that sounds like a really nice lane. And I mean, we were actually talking behind the scenes about creating a real nice collaboration on a project that I'm super excited about. We're not going to talk about it today because we're going to have a nice little build up for it later. But I'm super honored to meet you, and I'm glad that we got this chance to talk. How can somebody get in contact with you?
You can follow me on Instagram, JUSTTYABRANDLLC.
Okay. And this is the only place that people can follow you on. Can they reach out to you like through DMs to ask you questions?
Yeah, you can DM me on Just Hire Brand LLC Instagram page.
Okay, great. So I would like to definitely make your brand a sponsor for this week.
Oh.
Yeah, we're gonna talk. we're gonna do some more talking about how you can get in contact with Miss Taya Moore respectfully, and also I just want to say that doing these things are not easy. It's a very challenging to be a creator. So you have to respect the creator and also respect the creative process. But Miss Moore is gracious enough to say that she is willing to mentor and help. So if you have questions, you know, be respectful and ask. You can ask her questions because this is what this platform is all about. Entrepreneurship. I love entrepreneurs. I love the process. I love seeing what makes you successful and what makes everybody successful, because in the end, that's how we all elevate. So I am going to wrap up this episode. This is episode 6 of the What's Your Grind podcast with Keith Burrows. Shout out Keith S in the background on the production. And this episode is also sponsored by iGrind Nation and Mood and Senses. Check out moodandsenses.com. We have over 60 products, and we're going to leave it just right there. Thank you, guys.
iGrind Nation podcast. What's your grind like? What's your grind like? What's your grind like?